What's poppin', people? It's Dante under the bridge here in Philadelphia along the Schuylkill River. Yeah, check out the hieroglyphics on the walls. We've got some beautiful work here by the street artists of the city. Yeah, I love looking at the colorful bridge. Photographing today with the Ricoh GR3 using small JPEG files, high contrast black and white, cranked to the max. You know, I'm trying to push the limits here. I'm trying to return to the root of the medium, light and shadow, painting with light. The beauty of light is the gradual nuances and change that it provides you over time, where each and every day is different and you cannot make the same photograph twice. So the power of photography lies in the direct experience that it gives you, where the camera is merely a passport that is the excuse for you to go out there and to explore the world. And so, wow, look at that plane flying by. That reminds me of my time traveling. You know, the passport maybe is merely the camera itself, and the experiences that you have are real. You know, your direct experience shapes and forms the reality as you know it. And I think that is a crucial thing to consider, as we are currently living in a much more cybernetic, automatic world with digital technology, media, news, headlines, you know, information is kind of all around you with screens, TVs, phones, and things. But the connection that photography provides you with everyday life, no matter where you may be, I believe shapes a true reality, where the truth lies in the experience. The truth lies outside, under the sun, under the stars, under the clouds. You know, there's something about being outside. There's something about walking and moving your body and engaging with the world, right? This is what shapes your reality. But the more humans consume information via technology in this automated, instantaneous format, whether they are providing you information through social media platforms or television news programs, I believe that this causes chaos. And I think that's just a natural byproduct of the way that we consume information. Thinking of information that is spread and then consumed, and then the reaction that it causes. Where in our local community, Philadelphia, we can become consumed by worldly affairs. We can become consumed by things that actually do not affect our everyday life. Whether there's conflict in the Middle East, whether a different state is, you know, passing legislation. You know, there's something about reality. There's something about what's real, what's in front of you. There's something about experience. There's something about language. I'm trying to further sort of understand here, because I believe that language essentially shapes our reality. You know, the language that we use to describe things, where I think of energy, I think of, you know, the feeling I get when I wake up in the morning and how I'm powering myself through the day. You know, like maybe the body is merely just this human battery, where the sun is the ultimate source of power. That's the ultimate way to charge your battery, your body. And the foods that you consume are what store the energy. And so when I consider fat, when I consider the consumption of fat, when you consider the word fat and the language that I'm using, right? Fat. You know, like, is it okay to call somebody fat? Like, hey man, you're fat. You know, you look a bit fat. That sounds maybe rude, but there's something about weight when when maybe you say something, oh man, you're a bit overweight, right? Like the doctor will tell you you're overweight. You know, what would happen if the doctor called you fat? You know, would that be an offensive remark? Would that language not be appropriate or morally just? And so fat is actually funny because fat is energy. You know, fat holds about 9 calories per gram, as opposed to carbohydrates or proteins, which is half of that. And so my thought is, we in the United States of America consume a lot of carbohydrates. And because of this, we are constantly snacking, we are constantly eating, we are constantly in need of replenishment throughout the day. And I believe that this causes food addiction and leads to obesity. However, the consumption of fat, and when you consider fat, you know, is fat bad? You know, you think of that. I don't want to put fat on. Everyone says that it's bad to be fat. You know, but maybe, yeah, maybe, wow, this bird has got a worm in its mouth. Yeah, maybe it is bad to be fat. You do not want to be fat or over fat, but you want to consume fat, right? So fat, the consumption of fat, storing energy in your body, the consumption of red meat, the consumption of fats, right? Fatty red meat, you know, eat the fat. You know, you will be satiated, you will be filled with energy, you will be filled with power. You know, it amuses me when I go to a grocery store and I see the cereal boxes and I see Cheerios and I see the information and the language that it uses. Good for your heart. How can a cereal that's it's like this cardboard thing that's like made in a factory be good for my heart? How can that be something healthy to consume? And so the language that we use is oftentimes deceiving. You know, helps lower cholesterol or whatever it may be. You know, good for your heart, healthy heart, eat Cheerios. And then you start feeding children this food and there becomes this fear of red meat. And then there's this whole ethical conundrum where now we have figures like Bill Gates, who is advocating for the production of lab-grown fake meat. You know, you see it in these grocery stores and it's concerning, it's alarming. And I figure worth mentioning. You know, language is a funny thing. It really does shape our life. Good morning, man. Beautiful day. It's a beautiful morning. And I believe that, you know, photography, it shouldn't be this thing that it shouldn't be this thing where you feel like a buffer. You know, oh, I have to make dedicated time to photograph, or I have to, you know, take the camera out my bag and put it on my neck and do the whole thing. It should just be something that becomes second nature, where you're merely responding to the world with your intuition. You're merely living life in a flow state, and the camera is kind of just there for the ride, and you make the camera your slave. You know, you set it and forget it. You just click a button and you move on. You know, photography becomes this complicated endeavor, you know, where there's all of these different camera choices, there's all these different technical skills that people believe they must learn. But I'm a big proponent of throwing away all the rules and simply snapshotting your way through life. I believe that the imperfection that you can evoke through the medium of photography, through your amateur snapshot, is perhaps more beautiful than the perfected, considered composition of a studio photographer or somebody that's working in controlled environments. And so the spontaneity of life is something that we should embrace and merely paint with light and observe the nuances and change. Looking at the billboard illuminated over there, it's beautiful. Simply spiked, it's getting juicy. These spiked juices, these spiked beverages. Maybe the issue with a lot of our health is through the liquids that we consume, funnily enough, you know, thinking of the sugary drinks, thinking of alcohol, thinking of, you know, all of these like sodas and Coca-Cola and whatever. It's like these things are merely poison, but we voluntarily consume the poison, and I believe through social norms and influences where you know, after work, you're invited to the cocktail party and everyone's having a drink, and then, you know, oh, have a drink, and it's like, just say no, you know, just don't consume it, don't do it. But it's of course your choice. Yeah, I say don't trust any artist, any thinker or person that is consuming any of these drugs or alcohols and all this kind of funny nonsense. Drinking sodas. Let's trust someone who drinks soda. They surely will have a voice of reason. Yeah, I think that at the end of the day, you know, you can have all of the money in the world, you could have the fancy car, you could have all of the material possessions, the big house, the pool, you know, the automatic driving Tesla that wipes your butt. But all of these things, they really actually, you know, they don't matter at the end of the day. I feel as though actually health being the ultimate source of wealth. And when I consider this, it puts things into perspective where having the capability to move your physical body through the world and moving your two legs and standing upright and lifting yourself up and exerting your body physically and being able to walk long distances and being able to lift weights and do things physically, right? Like, this is the ultimate privilege, the ultimate source of wealth in life. And to be grateful for that simple thing of good health sets everything into perspective, where all of the petty drama, all of the petty material things, all the petty gossip, everything else doesn't matter. For when you put all your eggs in the basket of health, yeah, I think your perspective will be aligned where it should be, maybe. And yeah, random thoughts. I love going for walks here along the trail. Man, that guy back there had a not the two guys sitting there, but the guy at the front, he had a taser in his back pocket. Sketchy. You know, direct experience being the teacher, right? Where I have been in numerous situations, you know, being chased around by knives in my life, you know, where when I visited Balata refugee camp in Nablus, this Palestinian city in the West Bank, you know, there were these men and they had pistols in their front pockets, and they used, you know, camo pants and black shirts, and were merely gangsters, right? No police, no governance over this refugee camp. Balata being one of the scary places. I mean, truly. But I remember my friend and I asking him, yo man, like, can you show us your gun? Like, we wanted to like take photos of him and his gun, and he was like, oh, we practice, you know, our target practice is down the way, and at this hour during sunset, you know, when the sun goes down, we start to shoot. And we looked at each other like, okay, let's not do that. Like, as we left, we were hearing the gunshots. But on that same day, when I tell you this adventure was just a freaking nightmare, but so exhilarating, the danger. I mean, man, danger is actually so Like, I love chaos, I love danger. But it can definitely be scary. You know, where we were chased by this group of teens with a knife. You know, it was like an older teen, like, you know, probably 17, 18, who knows. And there was a group of these kids. And, you know, able-bodied, you know, military-aged males, I believe, you know, for the the most of them. And, wow, the way that Washington's illuminated back there is beautiful. I wonder if I could get it all the way from back here to 28. And so, yeah, I remember we were running around, and, you know, actually this was the first time there were some like younger children with a knife, and we took the knife from the kid. We disarmed the boy because he was a small boy. But then the second group of teenagers chased us around, and that's where you don't play games. You just gotta run when there's a group. And so I remember actually running into some little like hospital or some sort of like establishment or shop, and, you know, there was a group of women, you know, in their hijabs, and I just like was like, there's a crazy group of kids there, please help. And I think that the respect within the community towards elders is what shielded me from dying. Because then the woman, you know, they go to the door and they scold the boys and sort of just scurried away. But on that same day, I mean, we were being pelted by rocks. I was hiding behind a gravestone in a cemetery, being pelted by rocks. And we had to hop the fence and run. Like, a lot of these dangerous memories are experiences that shape how I view the world, how I shape, you know. But then I consider when I was a young boy and, you know, going to the shop when you're a younger boy and purchasing like a BB gun and like a pocket knife, and then like exploring the woods and feeling like this gangster and exploring that sort of dangerous side of you as you're developing as a boy, when you're doing things that maybe you're not supposed to. And so, like, I remember doing similar things, not necessarily causing havoc in the streets, but simply being curious about danger and these sort of things as a kid. And so maybe this is just a universal common thing amongst youth, you know, sort of recklessness. However, in the city of Philadelphia, you know, it's actually kind of crazy to observe the culture. You know, I think the culture is generally, it's certainly on decline. I mean, you can't walk anywhere without there being trash on the ground. You know, there's masks, there's trash, all in the grass. I mean, this is like a beautiful museum. This is a beautiful place. Where is it even coming from? You know, I've never walked this way and have not seen garbage all over. Yesterday there was 4 women, presumably mothers, perhaps older sisters of these 3 children. One was in a stroller, one kid was pushing the stroller, another was walking along. They were waiting to cross the street, and as they were waiting to cross the street, a bus was dropping off the passengers. And as the bus driver started to roll away, one woman threw a Sprite can at the windshield of the bus Another started kicking the windows on the side. And then a third began twerking and took off her shirt and was dancing and shaking her butt at the passengers. And who knows what the next generation will bring? Who knows what the children of Philadelphia will turn out to be? It could be either a beautiful place, and this could be Athens, and we got this museum and all of this order and beauty, or it will probably more likely just turn into a chaotic city. And this inevitable decline of culture, I believe, is where the artist thrives, where in chaos we thrive. You know, at least I do. And so I'm always on the outskirts. I'm always this sort of outsider within, you know, I'm the outsider on the inside, just observing as I live my life. And it's amazing how people just eat and they just go, oh, let me just plop it here. It's like, dude, there's a trash can right there. Like, I seriously think that we are, yeah, maybe just becoming really stupid. Which is funny, actually. And I like it. It's actually hilarious. Your direct experience is real, and language is what shapes our reality. So perhaps going forward, use the camera as a way to experience real life more.